and welcome. This is Christina Major of Crystal Holistic Health, and you're watching part 5 of the garden series. Today, we're going to be talking about how to preserve the harvest. Now, it's a beautiful day out today, but it's supposed to snow tomorrow, so I'm taking a little detour. We're going to first talk about some commercial methods. And the first one I'm going to talk about is commercial canning. This isn't the greatest method of preserving our foods. You see, they use a lot of chemicals when they commercially can food. They spray things on the can, they spray things on the food, they overcook everything, and you don't know where anything comes from. You don't know what pesticides are used, you don't know what chemicals are used. And the overcooking of the food drains the nutrients. And because commercially canned food needs to be so cheap, you have a lot of GMOs. It's the same thing with commercial freezing. You risk the GMOs, the pesticides, but you also escape the pesticide use, or the preservative use. So this method is just okay. But still, because it's so cheap and easy and you don't know where anything comes from, I typically recommend only if you have to. But still, sometimes freezing can be better than fresh. If things are coming out of country, at least you can guarantee the frozen food comes from our country. But it's still not something to preserve yourself for a long time on. Now, when they commercially freeze things, they will often cook it for a short period of time before freezing it. So you need to be careful. Now we come to the home methods. Home canning can be great, but the process is a little too much to go into here. At least you know your sources of food. Did it come from your garden, the farmer down the road? Where? So you know it's safe. The nutrition can also remain because you're not cooking the vegetables and fruits as long as they do when they commercially can things. You just have to be careful a little bit with the safety, especially when it comes to botulism. Know what you're doing. That's where the library and the internet research can come in really handy. You can also freeze things at home, which is mostly what I do. There's a lot of debate on whether you should blanch fruit or not, and it's really up to you. I find both ways are acceptable. I know things from my garden and from my local farmer are safe. Freezing also keeps the majority of nutrients intact. And I tend to think it's the best method. Even though it's not the most cost-effective, it doesn't survive the longest or have the best preservation ability. You really are dependent on electricity and the way you froze things. Now finally, I've also gotten into home dehydrating. This is perhaps the safest method I know, as long as it's done properly. Basically, you're removing water from the food in order to stop bacteria growth and shrink the food down in size. You can keep a lot of nutrients within the food because you're not cooking the food at all. You just have to be very careful with how you do it. So, to wrap up, basically fresh is best. If you can get it fresh and locally, then you're good. But don't get anything out of country. That's one case where something commercially frozen is better than getting fresh. Home preservation methods are better than commercial canning or freezing methods because you have complete control of what you're doing. If you don't have access to stuff you've stored yourself or locally fresh foods, frozen can be okay, but don't rely on it. And avoid commercially canned foods. They're just not in your best interest. I'm sure there's a lot of things I didn't cover, so if you have any questions, just type them in the comments box below, and I'll be sure to get back to you. This is Christina Major with Crystal Holistic Health and part 5 of the garden series. Have a good day.